Welcome back to Let's Chill, the official, unofficial Minnesota Wind Chill, Minnesota Strike podcast. I'm Jeff,
I'm Jay.
And I'm Kane.
and we are recapping our first official season as a podcast. Just to start off, we of course want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's ever listened to this podcast. Thank you to anyone who's liked the post, who's read an article, anything like that. It's been fun trying this out. We can't wait for next season, but of course, we're still recapping the 2023 season, specifically for the wind chill. Let's start with some Sol Sevens. I have one that's not directly related to the wind chill or strike. It's technically related, but I'm going to pass off to Jay and Kane first.
All right, I'll go first. This is for either of you. This year, Minnesota had a lot of interesting players. One of them, who was a rookie, is tied for first with assists. Can you name the two players who are tied for first with assists
On the wind chill?
on the wind chill?
Sam Berglund, Will Brandt.
Oh,
It's
that's
not Will Brandt.
Okay, so Sam Berglund and Josh Klain.
Yeah.
Nice.
Dang,
Will
I
Brandt
thought
had
I thought maybe
28.
towards the end of the season there, Will Brandt kind of came in because I know he really turned on the Jets like halfway
Yeah.
through. So I thought,
Yeah.
that's crazy. That's
If
awesome.
Will Brandt was there for as many games as Klain and Berglund, I think he had two less than both of them. Maybe more than maybe
I
fewer
was
than
gonna say, I thought
Berglund.
he only played like 5 regular season games. I don't remember off the top of my head.
I'm not positive.
Yeah, but
Nice. Cool.
Cool.
So right up here, I now have a new addition to the setup, which is a disc that is signed by the 2023 Minnesota Wind Chill, except for one player, Jeff. Who on the team did not sign that disc?
I know you were out. You were slinging signatures on Saturday night championship game. Was there anyone who like wasn't there? I'm trying to think. I know I have 7 seconds. We never do that. There had to have been someone who wasn't there. Everyone comes to mind, and I know everyone was there. I'm gonna say. Wait, whoa, okay. This is a bad. I know. I'm sorry. Was it someone who like played in championship weekend? Okay,
Mhm.
so it's not like like a
Nope, not some random
practice
person.
player. Um, you know what? I'm gonna say Colin Berry.
Michael Jordan.
Oh,
He didn't get the one and only Michael Jordan to sign his
Right?
disc.
Would have been great.
all right.
Actually, now that you mention it, I low-key don't think Michael or Colin Berry signed it. Hang on.
We gotta check.
Guys, I don't think Colin Berry signed it.
Okay, so I got that one right.
All right. So 2 players. Jay, name the other player.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan and Colin Berry, you gotta come sign Kane's disc at some
Yeah,
point.
get on the pod.
Get on the pod.
Haven't had one of those in a while. All right.
Okay, my stall 7, like I said, is not directly related to the Wichita Strike, but it is related. What club team this past weekend won the pro championships?
Dragon Thrust.
Yeah, for the mixed division.
Heck yeah, man.
And of course, that is like the ultimate combination of like the best wind chill players and the best strike players, mixed in with a couple other very strong players who aren't necessarily part of either of those teams, but it's a dream team right there. So
Isn't
no
this their
surprise.
second consecutive year as well?
I believe so.
I think they won it last year too.
And they were ranked last. I think they were literally last seed in that
They were the
tournament.
underdogs for sure.
Yeah. So
That
pretty
just
sweet.
goes to show.
Like, yeah, I don't know. You'll have to see it. And like it's really cool. And now this is a good transition. Like it's really cool to see how the wind chill and the strike. And someone else had tweeted this, and I'm sorry if you're listening, and I'm not giving you credit. Someone else had tweeted this that the Minnesota wind chill and strike both made it to championship weekend this year. And like that's just an incredible representation of Minnesota Ultimate and just the talent that is in this state. And again, like we haven't even had to work for like we as a podcast, like got rewarded right away in our first year of doing this. Like, wow, we get to cover some of the best iterations of these two teams. And our job has been really easy this year. We just get to sit here every week and be like, rah, 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 look how good they are. But it's been pretty cool to be able to do that in our first year and cheer them on from the sidelines.
I agree. I think it was really funny to me that like I was re-listening to the podcast right after the strike lost that game. And I remember being like so disappointed because like, okay, the Minnesota team was so good. And then like the very next day or the same podcast, I was like, you know what? A Minnesota team got the championship weekend, and then the wind chill did it. And so I think it's fitting that both of those wind chill and strike teams got knocked out, and then Dragon Thrust is the one that wins. I feel like that's pretty
Yeah.
poetic. That was pretty cool. But yeah, I agree. It's been a really unique season to follow both teams. I feel like that this was special.
Yeah. So, man, that's very cool about Dragon Thrust. Just combining those two and kind of getting their own little redemption. Do you want to talk about championship weekend, AUDL championship weekend? Because we were all actually there. Like that was we could talk about the games in a little bit, but first I want to start with like the vibes and just like the experience of being in the stands for the wind chill, and then even the experience of Saturday night when the wind chill were kind of with us in the stands. Like what an experience it was to be right behind the wind chill, screaming our heads off. Like we had headaches. We were literally like about to throw up on the side of the road on the way home just because we were so sick afterwards and maybe a little overheated. But
It was bad. All I had to drink that day was like Mountain Dew, and I had some fries, I think, to eat. And it all hit me at once. I was like, all right. But no, that was just a really good experience. I think part of it's just the venue was perfect for it. I mean, it was really accessible, it felt like, and it was, I guess, different in the sense that like it's a professional sports venue as opposed to the college stadium that they usually play at. And that was just awesome to me. I think that really added to like the whole like sports fan atmosphere and just I think kind of funneled the energy, if that makes sense. Just gave it a better
yeah,
platform.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it definitely filled in, especially for the wind chill game. Like Ben Feldman and I are talking the day after. No big deal. Casually, we were just sitting, hanging out, watching the youth clinic, which is fun. And he was just kind of ballparking some numbers, and he said in Madison, they hit about maybe 1,800 fans at the peak of championship weekend last year. And he ballparked that he thinks ticket sales touched like 2,200 for Friday night alone, which was that's incredible. Like about 400 more people doesn't necessarily sound like a lot off the bat, but from a numbers perspective, Ben Feldman was like, "Yep, this is a huge success. The league is happy. He was happy. People showed up. That was really cool."
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who said it I believe it was a Shred player who said like the game when Minnesota fans and like it felt like the whole crowd was cheering for Minnesota that night. And he said like I'd rather have 3,000 fans cheering against me than an empty stadium. He said that in Player
Mhm.
Chatter. Go
Yep.
check out that article. And I thought that was really cool because it was awesome for us, but also the players recognized it. I know Mattis had said like walking out to the benches and just hearing the fans cheer on the wind chill as they walked out after the Austin Empire game. So it was nice that the players also recognize, man, having a lot of fans watching us is also really cool.
Yeah, I felt like this uh, immense pride, which like maybe sounds bad, was kind of unexpected. Like I was really excited for this team, like I don't get me wrong, I showed up, I've been a fan for a couple years now, but like there was something about seeing them, and it was not this big entrance. It wasn't this big like, and now introducing your wind chill. Like they were just like literally walking onto the field, and like all these players were still on the field getting off and cleaning up the field from the previous game, and it was just like there they are. Like we've been here day in day out with them again, not for 10 years, not for as long as rigorous as what they've been doing, but like there's that recognition, that mutual respect of like, hey, we're right here with you guys. And it's cool to hear that the fans really did make a difference. You could tell that there were moments where they rode that momentum, and like we maybe we're just patting ourselves on the back, but it felt like there were some times where they kind of pick themselves up and like, yeah, let's push through, and they did.
They definitely did. Yeah. Fun, very fun experience as a fan and as someone who's like following the team to, write articles, make podcasts and stuff like that. Like you said, I think just the sense of pride from that was a really good way to not only end the wind chill season, but end our season to like, I don't know, like you said, it was a sense of pride. And I feel like how we handed out signs in the crowd and everything like that just kind of brought this community together a little more. And I think that's awesome. So
Yeah, that's the thing. Like it really has felt like a community, and I kind of lost my train of thought. But like even just the vibe from the players the day after, like, and I've written this specific language in a couple of my articles. I think at least 3 articles: the preview article, and then 2 post like recap articles, one for Winchell talk or whatever, doesn't matter. But the language I've been using is that this season was by no means a failure, right? Like this was a very successful season, and I think the players agree. I know a couple players, like I'll name drop a couple, like Josh Klein specifically had said this, and I want to say maybe I guess I can't think of Josh Klein right now, but he said that like honestly they were not super bummed not having made it to championship game because with all due respect to the Salt Lake Shred, with all due respect to the Minnesota Wind Chill, the outcome would have been the exact same, right? And like how heartbreaking would that have been and how anticlimactic, especially after that incredibly first game, like incredible first game against the Shred, and then to just like poop out the next day. Like no, like probably no amount of fans could have changed the tides of that game against the Empire. So like to go out on that note, I don't think any player, I mean, obviously they were disappointed they didn't win, but I don't think any player was like, nope, what a wasted season, what a wasted effort. This just sucks now, you know.
Right. Yeah, that's not like New York game. Should we get into that now, or should we?
Let's do it. Can I just throw out something, or do you go ahead, Ken?
No, go for it. Go for it.
I what I've learned is that the name of the game isn't so much skill as it is endurance. I think, and Jay had said this, I'll credit Jay. The New York Empire don't necessarily win based on skill. They have skill. They win because they're way better trained. I think they have way better endurance. And even just the oxygen cans are just a great visual representation of what they do to take care of their bodies to outrun and outlast their opponents. I mean, I'll stop there and let you guys get a word in.
No,
Um, I was just saying with oxygen cans, going off of that, as someone who does a little bit of medicine, um, the air that you breathe is 21% oxygen. Those cans give you 100% oxygen. Your muscles need oxygen. If you don't have oxygen in your muscles, they get sore. So muscle soreness is literally oxygen deprivation in your muscles. So being able to just pump oxygen into your muscles is a really easy way to not get sore. That's basically what those oxygen cans are doing. So not only are they extremely well trained, but they're also just like smart having those. They're not going to get sore as quickly. And you could tell on the field they weren't getting tired.
yeah, and I think what also part of that was like why that game was so boring. And Dylan Leclerc basically said like we played so intense that game. He's like, I don't know if I could have even played today. And I was like, makes sense. You're running around. Everyone on the Minnesota Wind Chill team was on the sidelines cramping up and stuff. I think Salt Lake really did like overextend themselves. I was talking to Kelsey Percy, and she had mentioned that Salt Lake, like they pushed Salt Lake Shred guys because as tired as Minnesota guys were today, they were just as tired as well. And so, yeah, like you said, it would have been the same outcome. I think they knew that. I think they knew that the game they played against Salt Lake was possibly the best game they've ever played ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all they could have done. And that's good enough,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the entire coaching staff and Josh Klein, because he joined Ben and I up at the youth clinic. So that conversation sticks out to me. They said more or less the same thing, that they're actually really proud of, and at that point they hadn't played the championship game, but they're very proud to push Salt Lake as far as they did, because yeah, like look at later that night, like Salt Lake was also just gassed. And so that's like a really cool showing of look how hard we made them work. Uh yeah, so that's a big point of pride, I think, that geez, I'm like losing my thoughts today, but I don't really have a lot to add immediately. Someone
right?
pick it up.
There's not a whole lot to say about that game.
Yeah. I have 2 things immediately that I want to say before any haters or any doubters come and say anything. The Salt Lake Shred Minnesota Wind Chill game was not sloppy. And a lot of people are saying it was sloppy at the Salt Lake were playing sloppy. They did fall for a couple of snake in the grasses, which was kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Minnesota can pull it off, it's awesome. But Minnesota had like 2/3 of all of Salt Lake's turnovers were blocks by Minnesota, and 2 of the non-blocks from Minnesota were like hucks that they threw at like end of quarter situations. They're just like, hey, get this up, and they didn't make two of them. Like it wasn't like they had 4 turnovers that were on force, which is
Right.
very low.
Like Salt
Minnesota
Lake,
had like 10 blocks.
like Salt Lake got to that level of game because they had one of the like best, most efficient offenses. Like it's not like they got to championship weekend and all of a sudden just like forgot how to play frisbee. Like
Absolutely.
It was not a
Yeah.
sloppy game. A lot of people were saying it was kind of Salt Lake was playing kind of sloppily. And then secondly, I'll say this: Minnesota didn't take Salt Lake to overtime. Salt Lake took Minnesota to overtime.
Yes.
Minnesota had a lead for most of that game. Minnesota was, I mean, ahead when Salt Lake took them to overtime. So I get people saying like, "Oh, everyone favored Salt Lake, so Minnesota took them to overtime." But in that game, if you go back and watch it, Minnesota was winning that game. Salt Lake worked harder and took them to overtime. They put in the work. So
I agree. So yeah, I always have this thought in my mind of like Minnesota had to face Salt Lake, and that's a really intimidating matchup. But again, the other way works just as well. Salt Lake had to face Minnesota, and they did. Like that was a matchup that they had to prepare for as much as Minnesota had to prepare for the shred, you know, like and like you said, Jay, the shred had to fight that out to get into overtime. And even in overtime, like they let up right away. They let up and gave up a break point right away in overtime.
Mhm.
And then again, like on the other side of that, Minnesota had a break point lead going into overtime and they gave it up. Like, you know, so but to kind of plus one you and almost like devil's advocate, I think Salt Lake almost was playing sloppy, but because of Minnesota. Not because they're having a sloppy bad game, but Minnesota forced them to throw like 100 more throws. I'd actually love to look up the stats of how many throws on average Salt Lake Shred throw in a game, and then how many they threw against Minnesota, because that was a point of pride of Ben's that night, was that they made Salt Lake throw a ton. And Jordan Kerr still had a plus minus of 10. Like Jordan Kerr still did Jordan Kerr things.
Right.
You know, it's not like, oh, he's out of the game now, Salt Lake loses. Like he still did he had an incredible performance. And Minnesota still went blow for blow with them and yeah, led most of the game.
Yeah, and shout out the Salt Lake guys who they knew not to count Minnesota out. Like they literally were like, "Hey guys, don't like we're taking this game seriously because we have to," and they did. And I think that's awesome to see that. So yeah, Salt Lake game that was awesome. I feel like that was a really good competition. I don't think it got like ugly even. I mean, you know, it's semifinals game, so it got like intense and it got very competitive, but I don't think it ever got like too much. And that's really cool.
Yeah, I think if the Shredded and Winchell play again, it would really feel like a fun rematch, not like we need to
right.
destroy
we
you
gotta
now.
get this one this time. Like
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that was cool. Same with that if Minnesota and Austin ever play. Okay.
Dude, one
The
second. Shout out Austin.
Soul and the Minnesota Wind Chill were best
Let's
friends now. Shout
go.
out Austin.
Yep.
Shout out the Austin team owner who took my hat, bro. He took my hat. I don't
he
know his
literally
name.
took Kane's hat
I don't
and did not
know
give it
who
back.
he is, but it's
All
the
right, all
funniest
right.
thing in the world to me.
Kane gave him his hat.
No,
Let's
here's the thing, though.
not.
He's like, oh, I need a Minnesota hat, and like jokingly,
So-
I was like, okay, you know, take this off. I would laugh about it.
Wait. Start from the beginning of the story though. How we were getting ready for the Seoul Empire game, the semifinal, and we were right on the fence like normal. And I just shouted out like, "Hey, go Seoul!" Because like screw the Empire. And the owner was like, "Hang on just a second," and ran over and gave me a hat and a couple of the koozies that I just showed on camera. And we are like, "Dude, that's pretty awesome." And so like for the whole game, we got a free J-Rad shirt. Like we were Soul fans, big time.
We
And so
are Soul fans.
yes, so we still are. So then after they lost against the Empire, then he came up to the stands and was like, he's like, "What? Like, do you guys have a Winchell hat for me or whatever?" and then
I
Kane
literally just gave him my hat. I thought it was gonna be one of those like, oh, you know, he puts the hat on. I had the Soul hat at that point. I was like, you know, maybe we'll get a picture and laugh about it. I
Yeah.
turned around to like say something to one of you guys, And by the time I turned back, like less than 30 seconds later, just gone. He was
He's gone.
gone
He
with
just
my
left.
hat. Which
And like,
also, it wasn't like a clean hat. Like this is a hat
no,
I've had for like 3 years. It was nasty,
you
guys.
wear it every day. Yeah. So to the sole owner, if you're listening, I can almost guarantee you're not. Bro, we'll get you a new hat. Like, we respect you. Contact us. We'll get you a free clean hat. In fact,
How
we
about this?
because Ben gave us a new clean hat for Kane.
You you managed to get a game between an interdivisional game between Austin and Minnesota for the 2024 season. We'll give you a
Mhm.
hat.
Absolutely.
Fans, tweet him,
Let's do
X
it.
him.
We'll do instead of a jersey swap, like a hat swap, and we'll wear a soul hat. He'll wear the Winchell hat for the game. Yeah, let's do it. Let's make it happen. We're just goofing off right now.
We're making more. All right.
But
Anyway,
anyway,
let's get
so
to some awards.
yeah. Well, okay, just to touch really quick on the rest of the Winchell season, specifically their game against the Shred. Like, because I don't want to not acknowledge it. There were some points where it felt like we're totally big, like, tide changers of the game. And like, obviously the biggest one, the most obvious one, I think, is the Quinn Snyder foul in the end zone. And we're not really going to talk too much about the refs. We can have that discussion, but I just kind of want to throw it out there that was a pretty big shift in momentum where Quinn Snyder caught a goal that would have put the wind chill up, I believe, two, with like about 5 minutes left in the game. He was called a foul. I'm sorry, I don't believe it was a foul. We've watched the replays. The guy, I think it was Grant Lindsley, tripped over himself, a gesture to the ref. It was kind of an ugly play. Whatever. Again, we can go too much into that. I think that was just one of about four instances, at least four, where, like, if it had gone the other way, I think the Wind Chill could have won that game almost without any doubt, without even going into overtime. Like, there were a couple stall counts, or there was one huck, I think, that Sam Berglund looked to maybe Tanner Barkis or someone that, like, it was maybe a questionable choice at the time. Um, but yeah, kind of point being that I think the wind chill really had it in the bag. And if it hadn't been for, like, just a couple things that could have shifted the game, they would have won. And so it wasn't the way they were playing. It was a couple snapshots. They were not playing by any means like they were ready to lose that game.
Yeah,
agree.
I 100% agree with that. I think there are a few moments where we're just a little this got away from them, and those happen. Those happen in all games, and no different in the championship game. Salt Lake had moments like that too. It was a really close game. It was a really exciting game. It was a really good game. Yeah, I honestly do think it was a 50-50 on who was going to win in overtime. And yeah, also I want to say a little bit about refs. Nothing bad. There were missed calls, good calls. It happens in all pro sports. But I do think AUDL has to have like a more clear ref guide, or have something
Yeah.
with integrity calls where players have to call them, or like make the refs better trained. That way they aren't making those calls, or have them have the ability to watch replay, which I know isn't available yet because of capabilities. I totally understand why they can't.
Mhm.
Or it should be like, if a player is asking for a foul and the ref didn't call it immediately, they should have to congregate, something like that.
Yeah. I think that, especially in that specific circumstance, because there was only 5 minutes left, it was a semifinal game, they absolutely should have gotten together and talked about it. And there were some calls that went the other way too. Like, I think, like, Dylan DeClerc or someone had on the wind chill got away with a foul too, and there are a couple who got away with stall counts and stuff like that. So by no means, again, was that the difference in the game, and that Minnesota was at the short end of the stick and the refs were out to get them. But, like, even in the Seoul Empire game, there were just some weird calls that, yeah, I think better preparation or a better support system for the refs could go a long way, especially in a championship weekend environment.
I have nothing else to add. Let's do awards.
Sounds good. End
All
of
right.
season player awards.
All right. So, rookie of the year
Okay,
to me feels pretty obvious.
I think so. And let me just like quick remember who all was were actually officially rookies. So I know we had Sam Berglund, we have Tanner Barkis,
Lacey.
Cam Lacey. I think Will Casperson had played for Madison, so he's new to the team, but not new to the AUDL. Gosh, I feel bad if there are others. I mean, I'm sure there were others, but those are the three, honestly, who I think are candidates for Rookie of the Year. Kane,
I mean,
who's
I
your
think it's
vote?
got to be Berglund. I feel like
Jay?
yeah.
Yeah, it's Berglund.
Yeah, I think that's three for Berglund. He was
Yeah.
very effective, not just in his polls. Like he was tied for assists. Like
Right.
as your offensive handler, like if you're tied for assists with your offensive handler, clearly
You're
you're
a
doing
good
something
defensive
right.
handler. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, what else we got?
Most improved.
Okay, I got an easy one for that one.
I have one too.
I'm gonna go with the other iceberg.
Okay.
I think Bert, especially in the first half of the season, he really stepped it up. He made it big. But even throughout the second half, especially in the playoffs, like he was a very solid support for the team. I think he definitely earns most improved.
I
Okay.
would personally go with Tristan Manny Martel. I think I mean he made a big impact on O line. He had his perfect handling game in the postseason, and just every game he played, he was great as a target to receive to. I think of the Berglund to Tristan Van Mortel where it got tipped and he had the second effort catch, and that put Minnesota ahead, I believe, in that game.
Oh,
So
that was Brett Bergmeyer.
that's a
Was Bert?
different that's a
Oh,
different second effort.
okay.
Yeah, he also had one. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think Vanny Mortel takes it for me for most improved.
I have nothing. Yeah, you summed it up perfectly. I agree with that one.
Wait, to Jay or me?
Jay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so most underrated. Oh, I'm gonna need a minute for this one. I should probably have the roster up.
I probably should too, but I'm not going to because whatever. I want to say Vanny Mortel was also most underrated. I really do think that I mean, top 7 in my wins. Like he'd be on my starting 7 for sure. And I just don't know if I'm thinking like overall league wise overrated. I think we all know just how good he is. But I think if you take a step back at the league as a whole, that he's underrated. So I'm double dipping with the Van Mortel here.
Jay?
I got to give it to Tanner Barkis for this one. I mean, he had second most blocks. He's only 2 fewer than Dylan DeClerc, who put up 18 blocks this season. I mean, I'm not saying Minnesota obviously lost championship, the semifinal, but who got the block to give him the break to start overtime? Tanner Barkis with the run through block. Tanner Barkis had, I believe, 4 goals in that game. Like Tanner Barkis, he doesn't get nearly enough credit because we give a lot to Dylan DeClerc, but Tanner Barkis is my go-to for most underrated.
Nice.
Valid.
Yeah, I like that argument, honestly. I really hope he sticks around. I don't see a reason why he wouldn't. I hope he's not just a transition, made an appearance in 2023 and will go somewhere else. But yeah, he was really fun to watch this year. For me, this might be controversial. I don't know if he's underrated, but I'm gonna say Colin Berry. So I just looked at his stat line, and so I think, to be fair, I think this includes playoffs. So take this with a grain of salt. But 16 assists, 17 goals, and 3 blocks for a plus minus of 18. Like that's his highest in basically any of those categories since 2018. Like I know he was injured last year for a good chunk of the year, but like that's an insane line. And again, like even if you want to take out a good amount of that for playoffs, like him switching over to O line and playing a leadership role. Like being a captain on the team, I've got to imagine he's been pretty vocal and he's a good leader off the field and then on the field too. Like he plays where he needs to play. He has a pretty even spread of goals and assists, and a couple blocks. Like that's, I mean, only 3. You can almost chalk it up to being at the right place at the right time, but still, he did it, and so he's underrated in my book.
Valid. Yeah, I don't think there was a wrong answer to that one.
I mean, like you could say Bevon.
Yeah, Bevon's probably a wrong answer.
I don't think he's underrated, but yeah, heard.
All right. All right. Well, who has the best celebration then?
Speaking of Bevon,
No, that's a valid answer.
I think for me it's between Bevon and Tanner Marcus. The dog bowl celly, like that takes, oh man, that was so good.
It was
But
that
a
was so
cat.
disrespectful. It was
oh
awesome.
yeah, sorry, the cat celly. But when Bevon had that layout catch and the jump spike, I mean, just the picture, I think it was Rich Mole who got the picture.
Yeah.
Oh man, that
Bro
picture is
looks
just
straight up like Mario. It's awesome.
It was
It's like the
amazing.
perfect like
Yeah.
yeah,
That's like one of like the best frisbee pictures you'll ever get. That's
100%. So
well, and even the layout going into it's like perfect, picture perfect, and then the celly. Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
yeah,
Yeah.
if he was to get his own shoe brand, that would be the picture. You know, that's his Michael Jordan moment. So.
Yeah, yeah.
true. Yo, new pair of Bevons just dropped. That's kind of cool.
That is pretty sweet.
Bevon, get on this. Start making merch. Come out
Also
with
get
the
on this
shoe line.
podcast.
Sponsor
If-
us.
If
All right.
Bevon were a merch, what would he be? A hat? He doesn't
No.
really wear hats.
He'd be like a puffer jacket.
No.
No, he'd be compression leggings. Come on, guys.
Yeah, okay. He'd be
Like
compression
compression
leggings.
pants.
Yeah, fair. Go ahead, Gain.
No, I was either one of those two celebrations, Bevon's or Tanner Marcus's, I feel like. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Brandon Mattis's back foot. Like, it wasn't weirdly enough, I know it sounds really funny. It wasn't showy. Like, if you didn't see it, if you weren't watching it live, you missed it. You know, it was
Right.
not drawn out. And it wasn't necessarily like a huge play leading up to it. It was a good play, but not a huge play like Bevon's. But yeah, he just like pulled it out and was like, what? So
Yeah.
I'll go.
And he doesn't do it often. Like, I don't think he's ever done it before. Like maybe not for years, but like
Yeah.
I forgot he did that. Like that's how.
Yeah.
Maybe most underrated Selly
Yeah,
of the
exactly.
season. So
Maybe we'll see it again next year.
Yeah.
All
Cool.
right, best. Well, let's do an E afterwards. So defensive player of the year. That one I gotta go. Oh, there's a couple candidates. You know what? I will go the obvious kind of basic answer, Dylan DeClerc. I think he just stepped up his game even more. Like every year, he seems to figure out how to be even better. Like he's always good, and you're always like, yeah, he's always going to be good. But for him to just constantly get better, I'm going to give it to him.
100%, 100%. Dylan DeClerc.
Just for the sake of all three of us not having the right answer, I'm gonna shout out like two more. I think Sam Berglund is definitely in the discussion. I feel like that's he played a huge role. I know we already talked about Tanner Marcus, but obviously he had a good chunk of playtime. And honestly, you could make a case for Paul Krennic honestly being the defensive player of the year. I think, let's see. Yeah, and he played 61 defensive points, and he got 7 blocks in those. So you know what? Shout out PK. First time his name is being brought up right now. So yeah, just so we're not all saying Dylan DeClerc, because like obviously, yeah,
it's like criminally late in the episode for PK's name to come up, but
seriously,
who's PK? Check out episode 7 of the Let's Chill podcast to find out more.
All right, opposite side of the disc then, offensive player of the year. I'm not going to say Josh Clayton, and I'm not going to say Bevon because those are basic, but they probably both deserve it. In that case, somebody else take my guess.
Okay. Well, yeah, you're absolutely right in the sense that those two are obvious. I mean, you got to give it to Bevon, I feel like, but also I'm gonna say Tay. I'm gonna give him a little shout out on this one. Looking at it, he had 19 goals, 3 blocks, and 12 assists with a plus minus of 21. So solid season. I think he really played a big part on that O-line. Same with Vander Mortel. I think Tay could also take that most underrated player spot. I really do think he's been a key part to the Minnesota win show this year. So,
yeah. Jay?
Give me 1 second. I gotta find his stats. I'm pretty sure I would give it to Will Brandt.
Oh, really?
I don't know how many games he played in, but it was not that many. I'm checking right now how many he played in.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Six.
6.
Yeah, he had 6 games and then 2 in the postseason. So 8 games total.
Mhm.
And threw for the third most assists on the team. Like he did amazing. Um, I mean, he throws hammers like no one else. And I believe it was, I mean, Robin Fennick just recently posted on Twitter or X now about like people
Well,
thinking
it's
hammers.
Twitter. We don't say X on the spot.
Okay. Recently posted on Twitter about like throwing hammers, more regularly and not as this like last second out if they're the good look. And I think Brant has like no fear throwing a hammer 40 yards. Like when
It's a
I
good
see
utility
him,
throw.
yeah, like he doesn't think anything wrong of it. He throws it all the time.
Mhm.
And it's awesome. I mean, 40 yards. He threw. I think he had one huck that was a hammer this season. So
Guys, I'm switching my answer, by the way, for
Uh,
most improved.
oh,
I'm
who?
going with Jordan Taylor. This dude had in 2022, he had 9 goals. So in 2023, he scored 10 more goals in 2 more games.
How many more
So
points? No, but that's
less than
impressive.
50. Less than
Wow.
50.
Yeah,
So yep, there's yeah, I'm sticking with that.
that's
But
a good choice.
yeah, Will Brand for Offensive Player of the Year is a solid bet. I like that.
My offensive player of the year, I am actually gonna go. I have a really hard time not picking Bevon. Uh, like he is the Jeff Babbitt, the Ben Yacht of the team. Like he is that guy. I think he's almost. I don't know. I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit because I think this is our next category. I think he's almost the MVP of the team as well. Like he had 20 assists, 29 goals. Like he is everywhere and he does everything. And again, like for MVP vote, because I'll just show my hand now. We'll go to the next one. He's my MVP as well. I think being a captain, which he is, just adds yet another layer and another depth to your game and to your addition to the team. Like he is so valuable as a teammate, as a leader, and then again, he just as a goal scorer. Just the pure numbers on the field. Bevon is that guy. So for me, he's the offensive player of the year, and he's my MVP this year.
I agree. I
yeah,
think
I think he's the MVP.
yeah. Just to add on to that, because I mean you summed it up pretty nicely, but he also brings a lot of energy and high like valuable play, if that makes sense. Like he'll rep it out, play the heavy possession game, but also when you're like, oh crap, we gotta like gut this point out, like we need something to happen.
Yeah.
He brings that energy, he can get something done. That massive layout he had. Like
Yep.
when
Yep.
when a point starts to fall apart, he can bring that back together. So I really do think he's the MVP in that sense.
I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Go ahead.
There were throws during the semifinal game that Minnesota threw, and I was like, oh man, that's gonna be picked off. And then Bevon just like elevated.
Yeah.
Like there was at least two where like there was one where he almost got fouled, but he came down with the disc. Like he jumped up and over. I mean, I think that was the sky of the game moment.
His vertical is insane. So you both know, our audience doesn't know, my friend Dan the man Latran, my old college roommate of mine, basically introduced me to the game of competitive ultimate. He plays ultimate, and he played in a tournament or a pickup game or something against Bevon. He had to guard Bevon, and Dan's pretty tall. I would estimate he's probably 6'1" to 6'3", somewhere in there. And Bevon is probably about our height, about 5'7" to 5'8", relatively short. And Bevon Sky Dan, like he has a huge vertical. It's crazy. And like you see it in all these highlights and all of his pictures and stuff, like he can get up there. So he is insane on the field. Also,
Bevon's
like,
Bevon's 5'10".
oh, 5'10". Okay, so he's taller than I gave him credit
That's what
for.
they want you to think. That's what the scouts want you to think.
Yeah, he's real tall. He's 5'10's tall. But no, it was cool too to see him on the field the day after the semifinal game too at the youth clinic. He and Dylan DeClerc, and again, I did confirm Noah Hansen was there. They were all in the field, like teaching ultimate to kids in elementary school all the way up to high school, and like, I know that was something that they had signed up for probably months ago. Didn't didn't know the outcome of what the game was going to be, so they had to show up anyway the next day. But the fact that they did, the fact that they even signed up in the first place, and the fact that they were there, high energy, like they were running around with these kids, you could hear them on the field from up there, just goofing off, and it was very wholesome. I just want to give them credit there and shout them out because that's not easy to do after probably one of the most heartbreaking losses of your career up to that point. So that was incredible to see. So much love to Noah Hansen, Bevon, and Dylan DeClerc for doing that, making that special. Leo, our nephew, who did that clinic, he was like starstruck. He thought it was so cool to be able to be on the field with these guys. So that was really meaningful. If you guys are listening to this now.
Yeah.
Okay. Our last award category is the best moment overall in the 2023 season. I think there are a couple obvious ones, but I just want to, I don't know, let's get some ideas out there. I think for me, might have been, I have two. I know that's kind of cheating. I think it was when they came out onto the field, the wind chill came out onto the field to get set up. Again, it was such a moment that was not special. It wasn't this big drawn out, here they come, but they were just simply walking on the field and the crowd was going crazy. Super cool. I think the other best moment for me was later in that game when Dylan DeClerc was waving that towel in front of us and we were just all going ham, and like that was so fun. It was electric, and I can just see that clip being used forever now.
I think I have two, one a bit more serious than the other. The first one is like, I don't remember what point it was, but Minnesota, it was I think it might have been Bevon catching it and then getting the quick, like he skied someone and then a quick punch in to go up by a point, and the crowd just erupted. And it was the moment you could tell, like every Soul fan, every Empire fan, even Shred fans and all Minnesota fans were cheering for Minnesota at that moment, because that was, I mean, it was an amazing play, and just like the crowd was ecstatic. It was awesome. And then the second was when an undisclosed representative of the Wind Chill was heckling Empire players before the opening poll,
Who may or may not have had a couple of drinks in them, and it's like, you're washed.
Your shoes untied.
Yeah, I think him telling Ryan Osgar that his shoe was untied might have been the funniest
That was
thing.
the funniest thing I heard all day. That was great.
That was pretty sweet. We won't name them, but that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Shout out that person. Hey, if you're listening, get on the pod. You know who you are. I think you guys said some pretty awesome ones at like championship weekend stuff. I want to do just a highlight from the regular season, specifically for wind chill talk. I think it was a Pittsburgh game, but I remember we were there, and this one guy came down and introduced himself to us, and his name was Quinn. I don't know if you guys remember that, but he was wearing a Quinn Snyder jersey and everything, and he asked to like get a picture with us. And I think for me, that was the first time I realized that like this wind chill talk could really turn into something like a community like that, and just kind of, I don't want to say bring the wind chill community together, but give it another way for it to interact. So I thought that was a really cool moment for me.
For me, that moment was the first time I realized that other people listened to this, and this meant something to someone else other than us three.
Yeah.
I think also for me, that was, I think, wasn't that one of the only games all three of us were there for? I think we were only ever there for like 2 games.
And then
the championship weekend.
And then championship weekend. So like that was
And then
also like
championship
a great thanks game. So that was also a great
That's
moment
cool.
because the three of us were together when the guy came, when Quinn came.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So if you're all tearing up at home, just know that we're very appreciative that you're all listening, especially to this one, because there's obviously no games coming up to get excited for. So thank you.
Did you have another moment?
Oh,
If not, that's okay.
probably when Snyder absolutely dunked on one of the guys from Indy. It was nasty. It was nasty. He put him on a poster, sent him home, next day delivery and everything. It was great.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yep. The very last one, Memphis Indy, man. It was
Yeah, that's cool.
I think there were some moments where when Colorado and the Shred reposted the articles, the preview articles. Both of those are pretty cool moments for us.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, because I wrote the articles, but I think just in
Right.
general to have, those two teams be like, hey, let's repost this random website's articles. So,
Which, by the way, Jay, I did look back at the stats, and I would say about 10 to 20% of the reads of both those articles came from the respective fan base cities. And then there were a handful of random ones in like Atlanta and like North Carolina. But yeah, so a good chunk from Minneapolis, Minnesota, a good chunk from Salt Lake during the Salt Lake preview, and a good chunk from Colorado during the Colorado preview. So the fans actually read them. It wasn't just them reposting. So cool stuff.
nice.
Epic.
Well, it has been a season. We've kind of said all we needed to say already. We are so incredibly grateful for everyone who has shown any sort of interest. I do want to throw out that in the next week or two, I'm going to be sending out a survey to people. We would love to get feedback. I know we're working on getting better mics. We're working on getting better content, but please, Kane's already got a better mic. He heard the feedback loud and clear and is getting stuff.
And now you can hear me loud and clear.
But yeah, if you guys want to, if you ever see this survey come through your email or on social media, please take 5 minutes or less to fill it out. Just let us know how we can improve, what we should keep doing, because what we should keep doing is important, and what you want to see more and less of, so that next year is going to be even better. We are going to have some good off-season interviews. I don't know when or what or who yet, but definitely keep an eye on our social media accounts, because we'll be getting some players here and there. And then we'll be back in 2024, probably start ramping up regular content a month or two before the season, official date TBD, but our season 2 will begin next year. We really hope that you're coming along again. This has been so incredibly fun for us. We can't wait to bring the R1P1 network back. They are hosting and presenting this episode as well. Check out their artwork for us. What else, you guys? What else you have to say to our fans or players listening?
Ciao.
I got less of a succinct message, but yeah, just like Jeff said, thank you. We appreciate that you're interacting with the content. That's one thing that we also really like is when we post a podcast or an article, we love interacting with you guys too. We want to hear what you have to say about it. This isn't just for you guys to listen. We want to have some back and forth. So like we said, we like it when you come visit us at games and stuff. So thank you for doing that. I'm going to be writing the ranking the jerseys article again. So you guys can get ready to flame my opinions once more.
It helps with the algorithm, the thing that we know and love so much, especially on YouTube, if you like and comment and share all that stuff. So
yeah, and our egos
for sure. We can see those numbers
go up. Makes me happy.
Guys, with winter coming and sad coming up, seasonal affective disorder is coming up real. We need all the boosts we can get. Help us cure our seasonal depression.
Like, save, retweet, interact with us as long as possible.
Share it on X. All right.
Stop.
We gotta wrap this up.
All right. Well, again, like I said, this episode is presented by the R1P1 Network. We will be back in an undisclosed amount of time with some off-season interviews and stuff. So keep checking back. Sign up for all of our updates on our website, windchilltalk.com. Then you'll get all the content right to your inbox. You don't even have to check our social media. In the meantime, of course, as off-season, stay chilly and ka-chow.
Stay chilly, ka-chow.
Stay chilly and ka-chow.